Roman Reigns finally acknowledges Solo. Sort of. Let's talk about it.
The Rock says, The Rock says,
Smackdown tonight kicked off with a Bloodline segment, as we're kind of used to at this point. Solo comes down, he tells everyone to acknowledge him, and he kind of references everything that happened last week about Jimmy going to Jey last Monday and trying to recruit him back into the Bloodline, and how Jey really didn't want to have anything to do with this new Bloodline. Roman wouldn't have nothing to do with the Bloodline, neither did Jimmy. So as he's going through this whole thing, none other than Jey Uso actually comes out. He comes through the crowd. He does his whole entrance. And he gets in the ring, and we get a face-off between Jey and Solo. Jey kind of goes into his promo continuously calling Solo his little brother. Obviously, this is not to the pleasing of our new tribal chief. Jey goes on and talks about how he stayed away from the bloodline. He stayed away from the family for a reason. He needed to go off and be his own man. And he stated how no one in the family has more beef with Roman than he does. But Solo can't go on with this bloodline, this new bloodline, because it's dividing the family. It's ripping the family apart. And that should be the last thing that a tribal chief should do. Well, Solo disagrees, and he comes back and says, well, I'm not the one that's dividing the family. I'm uniting the family. So there'll always be space in the bloodline for both Jey and Roman. But notice he didn't say Jimmy. So does this mean that Jimmy is completely out if Solo was to become the actual tribal chief? That was a pretty interesting point. Jey follows back and he's like, well, if you're trying to unite the family, then why did you recruit the Tongans? Why did you bring Jacob here? There's a reason why we stayed away from these guys and you opened the gates for them to walk right in. At the end of the promo, Jey said something interesting. He says, the next time I see you is going to be different. No one knows what that means. And Corey kind of talks about on commentary that what exactly does that mean? The next time I see you, it'll be different. Next up, we have a number one contenders tournament match, triple threat tag team match for the WWE Tag Team Championships. DIY taking on Pretty Deadly and the Street Profits. The first thing I found interesting here is DIY and Pretty Deadly, who are making their return to SmackDown, actually didn't get entrances. The Street Profits were the only ones getting the entrances. And man, I wish they would go back to their old, newer music, the heel music that we won't smoke. Go listen to it. It is way more interesting than their current music, their old NXT thing, which I just found out was the music for Team Bad back in the day. I think it was Naomi, Tamina, and Sasha Banks. They got to change that music. But overall, it's a typical, it kind of feels like a NXT Black and Gold era TV match. Great athleticism, great tag team moves. It was a great match overall. I didn't particularly care for the finish, but I felt like this might be the lead to a Solo Street Profits heel turn. I think they're going to eventually turn on DIY, and they make a good point. So the classic WWE style of bringing tag team rules into the finish when no one really knows the rules of the match. So apparently their style is when you tag out, there's a single man from each team allowed in the ring. Essentially, it's going to be two sets of triple threat matches that can go on. I do not remember the names of Pretty Deadly right now. Bear with me. But one of them tagged out, and Montez Ford hits the Doomsday blockbuster, that finisher that they do. Right after that, Tommaso Ciampa and Jey Uso. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano hit their finish, and they both pin the members of Pretty Deadly. Well, they both get 3, and no one knows who actually wins. But technically, the legal man that DIY pinned was the actual legal man, and therefore they won the match. I know it's confusing. You had to kind of watch it to understand what I'm saying, but Street Profits deserve a rematch, and I believe this is going to set up a rematch for them versus DIY to get the definitive winner. So next week they're supposed to have another match the winners of our next tag team match, which are the Motor City Machine Guns. They finally make their debut in WWE tonight on SmackDown, and everyone kind of saw this coming based on the way Nick Aldis talked about it last week, but we finally got it, and I get it. Not everyone's going to be as knowing of wrestlers outside of WWE, especially the more casual fans. So the Motor City Machine Guns didn't get the pop I kind of thought they would, but nonetheless, they really sold well in this match, which is surprising for a new established team to come in and do that. Typically, it's a highlight showcase type of match for them, but they really sold well. They took a lot of the brunt of the offense throughout the match, ultimately coming up strong and winning the entire thing. So DIY versus Motor City Machine Gun, sign me up, please. Next, we have the second of 3 Bloodline segments in tonight's show. This one I was not a fan of. I've already spoken about how Roman's demeanor doesn't come off as he's as worried as I think he should be. So Roman and Jimmy pull up and they get out the car. They're looking as confident as ever. They're listening. They mentioned this new Travis Scott song they were listening to, which I don't know why that had to be stated in tonight's show, but whatever. As they're walking into the arena, Jey crosses by, and he walks up and he's smiling at Jimmy. But then when he turns to Roman, that's when his face changes. I thought Jimmy and Jey were still beefing, or at least Jey was beefing with Jimmy. But now you walking up smiling at him, and now your only problem is Roman. So I'm confused. When did this change of heart happen between Raw and tonight's SmackDown? So the brothers are cool again, and the only issue is with Roman? I don't know. I kind of feel like they kind of just like squashed everything. It's like, okay, let's get this thing moving. Like it almost feels rushed. Granted, Jey looked at Roman, and they didn't really say much. Roman just told Jey that, hey, I'm proud of you. The whole family is proud of you. Jey looks at him and just says, no yeet. Okay, I guess it just kind of felt like I don't know. I feel like I'm looking for more. I'm not saying what they're doing is particularly bad. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just wanting more out of these segments, more emotion, more drama, and it's just not giving me what I need to really be stuck into this story as I once was. Apparently, we got a new NXT call-up in Lash Legend and Jakari Evans. I wasn't aware of this, but this is their second time being on SmackDown, and Lash Legend looked fantastic taking on Piper Niven. They showed off her power. They showed off her athleticism. They almost made her look like a fusion between Bianca and Jade. She even was able to power up Piper twice. And her last move, the way she was able to hold Piper, I don't think many human beings can get her up like that, let alone safely hit their finish. Hey, hands up, hat off, hands up for Lash Legend. I think that they are really starting to push her up the card a lot more. And I don't know. There doesn't seem like there's much to do left for her in NXT aside from women the NXT Championship, but that's on lockdown right now with Stephanie Valkyrie, Julia, Roxanne Perez, and Cora Jade. So I guess now is the perfect time, if any, to call Lash Legend up to the main card and test her out. She's doing fantastic so far, if you ask me. Actually, I misspoke. There was 4 Bloodline segments tonight, and this one was another interesting one. We basically get a backstage segment of Roman Reigns sitting down in their old school Bloodline locker room, and Jimmy is basically saying, "Hey, listen, I think you need to talk to Jey. I think you need to mend this whole thing back together." Roman's like, "Listen, I told you he wasn't going to listen to me. It's not going to work. So we tried it your way. Now we're going to try it my way." And his way is he is going to acknowledge Solo. Before we get to that, we got to talk about Cody Rhodes' promo, trying to hype up the Crown Jewel match between him and Gunther. They're really trying to make this Crown Jewel championship thing more important than what it is. I've already stated, everyone talks about how they don't like the belt. I'm actually a fan of it. I think it's a pretty good looking belt. It's big, it's gaudy, but that's kind of what it's supposed to be given what given where it's coming from. It's coming from a kingdom, so you expect for it to be big and gaudy. And they're not going to be carrying it around all year long anyway. They're going to be competing for it, and it kind of means something, but at the same time there needs to be an actual, instead of like bragging rights or saying I'm the champion of champions, is going to downplay one of the major championships. So if Cody wins, it's going to make the World Heavyweight Championship seem like a second place, and vice versa, which I got a feeling Gunther's going to win it anyway. But there needs to be some sort of, hey, I'm the crown jewel champion, therefore I fill in the blank. Is there a WrestleMania implication? Is there I guess if you're the champion, you're probably not going to be in the you're not going to be in the Royal Rumble. So I don't know. There should be something more besides that belt that they're given to make this match more interesting. But I gotta say, Cody Rhodes, as cheesy as he may seem sometimes, and man is he cheesy, he works. He's very captivating to an audience. This promo was very long, very drawn out, but it worked. And he was able to keep control of the audience the entire time. And you know how Cody cuts his promos. They're kind of slow and methodical, well spoken, well thought out. He chooses his language very carefully in the words that he uses. But it's very captivating. I even have it here in my notes. Cody is extremely captivating with the audience. Even so much to say, he actually mentioned in his promo that there was a quote that he heard about champions and how people complain sometimes about how the current champion doesn't look like the last. Referencing how I believe how critics are really downplaying his title reign as they're comparing him to Roman. I've done it myself. But at the end of the day, Cody Rhodes does work perfectly for the mold and the type of character they are pushing him to be. Type of babyface that he's being pressed as, and the 80s classic style WWE superstar that he is, it just works. Let's see what else happened on the show. Candice LeRae pinned Bayley. Okay. Next, we have the main event segment, the fourth Bloodline segment. I guess some things never change. Roman Reigns comes out to acknowledge Solo Sikoa. So he comes out and he says, maybe for the last time, acknowledge me. Solo then comes out, and I like the little swerve that they did here. They allowed Roman to acknowledge Solo, and Roman basically is saying that, hey, listen, I didn't want any of this. This was not, like, after everything that we lost during the spring, everything that we lost during the summer, we're more divided than ever, and you claim that the bloodline is stronger, and I just don't see it. He states that he told his father, Sika, that he could fix this. This is how it was emotional way, because obviously Sika just recently passed away. So he asked Solo, what do I need to do to make this right? Solo says, well, that's simple. Just acknowledge me. So Roman says, okay, I acknowledge you. Are you happy? Is that what you wanted? That's not enough. Solo goes on to say, no, that's not enough. That's not what I want. I want you to acknowledge me as your tribal chief, or else. Then the real Roman came out, and he's like, well, or else what? And so that prompts Solo to call out his bloodline, and they're dragging a beaten and battered Jimmy out to the ring. Solo tries to jump Roman. Roman's not having it, and he goes one by one, systematically dropping every member of the bloodline until he notices the Ula Fala in the corner of the ring. Roman can't help himself, so he goes over, he grabs it, he looks at it, he's staring at it, and he goes to put it on, much like the way he did when he very first returned. And just like that time, and I'm guessing the next time he actually puts on the Ula Fala, it'll be real. And they're building up for that moment. But this time, yet again, Solo stops him with a low blow. The bloodline comes in, they're beating him down. There's a little bit of a drag during the beatdown where it kind of felt like maybe someone was going to come out, but they never did. Solo drops Roman with not one, but two Samoan spikes. And if you guys remember, I said that the beatdowns need to be more brutal in order for us to believe that Roman is in true peril. And that's what he did. He dropped Roman with two Samoan spikes. They stand over him to end the show. And yeah, now we're gonna see, now that they're doing more crossovers, I guess because Crown Jewel is gonna be a crossover event, we're actually starting to see Bloodline cross over into Raw and SmackDown. So I'm wondering how they're gonna continue this whole Jey and Jimmy and Roman trifecta thing to try to rebuild the Bloodline. I'm interested to see who's gonna be the person that's gonna get in Jey's ear to make him be like, hey, I have to go do this with my family. It seems as though it's gonna be Paul. Paul is they mentioned that, hey, if the wise man was here, all of this would have been done already. So maybe Jey is going to be Paul's going to be the one to get into Jey's ear, and they're going to Jey's going to join the Bloodline at the same time that Paul makes his return, which I don't know how long they're going to burn that out. That could be the night of Survivor Series. But that is it for tonight's episode of SmackDown, and that is it for tonight's episode of your SmackDown review. Thank you guys watching so much. You guys have been showing a lot of love to my previous video, the how does Roman Reigns rebuild the Bloodline video. I'm gonna leave a card right up here. Thank you guys so much. A lot of new subscribers came from that video. A big spike in views and engagement. So thank you guys so much. Welcome to welcome to all my new followers. Welcome to the channel. Thank you guys for enjoying. Thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you guys down the road. And as always, be safe, be blessed, be kind. Peace.
The Rock says,